Going on, everybody? Welcome back to another nightly watch list video. I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet as we're getting a nice little pull in the after hours on your NQ, ES, and a nice move up in your oil names, which I'll talk about some names I'm watching for on a pullback, some oil names, and as well as a lot of names that are building some high tight flags. But without further ado, let's jump right into the list. First of all, I just want to kind of go over crude. Got super tight under this high from March 16th, and we're kind of seeing a push out of that in the after hours. You flip to like a weekly chart, and I mean, I think this thing looks great. You know, makes a massive move up, finally built sideways inside week, and it looks like it's trying to push through that. So we'll see. I'll go through these oil names very quickly because speaking of a gap up in the morning, I don't know if I want to chase strength on a lot of these ones. So I want to be very careful when it comes to that. And a lot of these are just like, there's not too much of like a setup on a lot of them. So it's like, do you want to sit on your hands and wait for the real setups to come? Or do you want to just try to pile into a bunch of names, you know, when the market's finally starting to pull back? And a lot of names could use digestion and will look better with just some time. So AESI, really nice energy name. Trying to build a high tight flag. I think this name looks pretty good. Just a push out over 1938 could be interesting, or just continued digestion here would be pretty nice because it is about, you know, it's a little over 5 ATRs from its 50. I don't know if you guys can see, but 5.8 ATRs from its 50, but nice chart in that oil group. CVI, I really like this weekly chart. You get a nice base and then you put in the inside week. Definitely would be interested to see a push above Thursdays and Fridays high. That'd be super interesting. I really like the base it's got going on here. LYB, you know, you get super tight. Another one where it's like an inside week after some consolidation, back above the 50, starting to get super tight. I would see a push through that level, and I would be super interested in something like that. MPC, another one, a nice inside week, and almost like a cup with handle base, and just a push through the pivot would be super interesting on this one. A lot of these ones kind of look the same. VG, this is one of my favorites of the group, not because of the setup, just because of the way this name moves. I really like this weekly chart though. I would say like a few days of digestion would be interesting. It's got a big gap that it's probably going to be trading into in the after hours / pre-market / open. So I'll be super interested to see how it reacts over there. But a few days of digestion and some tightness would be great, but it's pushing back through the pivot, back to the 50-day. Definitely interesting. High beta name, super liquid, something I'm keeping an eye on. VLO, not a bad inside week again. And it's kind of just getting, you know, a few days tight right under this this area that I could see it pushing out of. So definitely an area I'm watching. ExxonMobil, obviously the big beast of all of them. So, I mean, if I would want to own any of these, it would probably be ExxonMobil. But not really a setup I see quite yet on a lot of these. They kind of made their move on Friday. So just a few days of tightness would be super interesting. But don't want to talk about oil too much because we'll see what happens. But like I said, crude pushing in the after hours looks not too bad. Kind of got back above the prior day high and pushing right through that pivot. So interesting for sure. But flipping over to the market, right? Finally starting to digest. You know, you get your gap down on Friday, first real gap down we've gotten off the highs. So like we've said, continue to I guess stay nimble and don't size too heavy on too many things right now, as like a lot of stuff needs digestion, like the SMH. It's finally starting to digest, finally pulling back to the 10-day for the first time since it got back above it. So I could see a bounce here, or I could see, you know, obviously like you get your NQ gapping down in the after hours or just continuing lower. ES, kind of same thing. It's losing the 10-day, but I could see it find support somewhere around here. I would like a pullback to the 20-day on a lot of these, like the S&P 500, QQQ, same thing, like a nice, like, you know, 5% or 3 to 5% pullback towards its 20-day would be huge, and especially for a lot of names. So I'm definitely watching a whole lot of stuff as it starts to pull back. Some of the names have been the most strong. Talked about NQ, ES. I also want to go over the IWM. Got hit pretty hard in these small caps, and then if you go over, I think it's RTY, Russell futures, you know, down pretty good, and it had a really bad day on Friday. So you're starting to see some stuff cool off finally and digest after making some massive moves. So it's definitely interesting. And then a lot of the stocks that have been making massive moves, like Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, kind of all in the same group. Really big moves. Watching all these for sideways. DDOG was nice as a high volume close, and it's just kind of continued higher. Some sideways on this one would be great, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it go higher. FTNT, same thing. Nice high volume close setup and just powering higher. But another one where it's like this group looks great. A lot of the names have made some massive moves. Some digestion, some high tech flags being built would be good. Twilio, same thing. These names look awesome. Innodata, Another technology name on my list. Um, I really, really like this one. And I think like a shakeout back to the high volume close would be great, but I wouldn't be surprised if this puts in an inside day tomorrow or even just pushes out with how strong it's been on the earnings gap up. DOCN, another name on my list. You get your high type flag. It's finally, you know, at least a week, almost two, up sideways. So some more digestion would be cool, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this name pushing above the prior day's high. That's probably where I'd look to take some sort of entry there if I can get my wrist tight enough. But it's another one where it's like, if we get a gap down in the morning and some stuff is weak, I would like a flush down to like 133, which if you go to like a monthly, it's the prior high. Just a very interesting area. And from there, it would probably be like the gap on the earnings is where I would look. So I could see a lot of stuff failing and pulling back. It depends on how we open in the morning. That'll be extremely interesting. But DOCN, like I said, one of the strongest names, so definitely something I want to keep an eye on. AEHR, starting to build a high type flag. It's finally digesting. Like we've been said, it's been digesting for a while now, but it's just been wedging up here. So I would say just like a few, like another week or two of just sideways or just a few more bars here would just give me some more clarity on if this thing actually wants to build a higher low. But if not, and like we see a lot of stocks start to break down, I would love to see some, you know, shakeouts and some new bases being built. And a lot of these would definitely be interesting, but a few more days of sideways to actually make this thing go sideways instead of just wedging straight up would be interesting. But you know, you flip to a weekly, it's kind of like, okay, you know, not my favorite look, but as I said, just wedging. Just continue to be tight and digest would be interesting. APLD, this whole group, as far as these like neo cloud data center names, super interesting to me. And yeah, I would say like another one where it gets hit on a gap down on Friday. Anybody chasing this name is gonna pay for it. So like a 40-20 is a big support level. Flip to a weekly, like that's a huge base. That's the huge base level that it broke out of. You know, higher low area could definitely be over there. Something I'll definitely keep an eye on. So we will have to see, but super strong name. ARM, another one where maybe if this name doesn't gap down, instead of it gaps up and gets some sort of an oops reversal, I'd love to see it through the prior day high or through this little pivot. Either way, a name I'll just continue to watch on a pullback as it just continues to kind of build a base here. Super interesting, and it's been super strong. BE, same thing, where it's been super strong. It's finally starting to digest, watching for a higher low. Even a shakeout in the bottom of this area would be so beautiful and would really complete this whole base. But you got a very big gap here. You got another important pivot here. So definitely some areas of support, as well as the 20-day to watch for a bounce. But we'll see how a lot of these names open. Cypher is in that same group of APLD pretty much with your data centers, as well as a few names I'll talk about here. You know, a nice pullback on Friday, and you flip to a weekly, a nice inside week. I think this chart still looks really good. So another one where I'm watching for a higher low on a nice washout in the morning would be interesting to buy around this 1970 area, which if you flip to a weekly is pretty important pivot. Circle. I don't know why I have this name on the list, but you know, crypto's been super weak lately, so don't have too much interest in this name, but it does still have a decent amount of support below it, and it did try to hold this little gap up from the earnings day, which it did end up filling on the earnings day. But you know, you got two areas of support that we kind of undercut and rallied. So can it hold? If not, I don't know really why I accidentally had that name on my list. DOCN we talked about, nice high type flag. HUT is another one where it's trying to build a high type flag. Just continue to digest here. I'm watching that earnings candle low for like a higher low spot, but I mean, you get your reversal candle off the 10 on Friday, wouldn't be surprised to see this name push higher. But another one where it's like it's in its early stages of digestion, it looks like. So continue to watch this name for digestion would be extremely interesting. InnoData we talked about. MBIS, another one so strong, one of your leading stocks. A name I do own, and I would love to add more to it. I was only able to get a 5% position on this day as it pushed through the pivot in the first 5 minutes of the day. And yeah, I haven't sold a single dime of this name. It's been so strong. It's been doing absolutely nothing wrong. I don't want to get rid of something that could very possibly go to, and it probably sound crazy, $500, but I'm just saying like this name could build another base here, build a flag here, and just keep going higher and higher with the current demand for these neo clouds. But another one where it's like so much support below it. You get your high volume close, so your earnings gapping, or your earnings close, and then just this massive gap below. So areas I'd watch for some support to add to the position. ONDS, you had your highest volume ever gap up, kind of inside this base still. A nice weekly volume, and a nice push on Thursday, and then Friday kind of rejected. I did try this one, got stopped out for a small loss. It happens, but I would not be afraid to buy this thing right back through the high volume close on Monday. So we'll see where it ends up. If it continues to pull back, I definitely want to watch the close of the earnings as like a pullback spot, like somewhere in this area. That would definitely interest me. So we will have to see. Yeah, without further ado, Rocket Lab, another one that's been in a super nice group. You know, PL, which I'll bring these ones up, but Rocket Lab for you got your you know, your earnings close, your high volume close, super big level to pay attention to. But can it even get that far? Like, will it pull back that far? Maybe, maybe not. You got a big gap it made over here, so definitely interested to see that. But you look at a weekly, it's like huge move up. It needs some sideways for a setup, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing continued higher. I do not own this one. I should. But definitely a big lesson for me on this name. Should have bought it back on this earnings gap up day. It was a perfect OEL setup. So just one that's been so strong and continue to watch. And I'll talk about the rest of the group right now. Here, SATL, right? Here's another aerospace name that's been really strong and made some nice moves. PL, another one that's just been slowly grinding higher, kind of choppy here. Obviously, it's in its like later stage move, so it's shaking a lot of people out, even myself. Lunar's been a good one, super strong ever since the earnings gap up on Rocket Lab. Fly's been okay. But you know, it's got the group behind it. It's a recent IPO, and it retests the base and acted really nice right off of it. So we'll see if that can act better and can continue higher. Just continue to build out here would be interesting. Obviously, you got your UFO as that ETF, and it just looks great. ASTS is another one that had a nice weekly chart, I would say, as far as like a volume aspect and kind of like a big higher low it built. But you know, it's finally back above the 200. Let it continue to build sideways here. If this thing can show relative strength, say the market pulls back and it just can build a mini base here, that would be extremely interesting to me. So something I'd want to pay attention to. SEDG, ENPH, and NXT, these solar names, flipping to like a tan, right? They've been super strong. Hopefully I'm not going through these too fast. I'm trying to keep this video as short as I can. But these names have been super strong. Money has clearly been rotating here. So some actual actionable setups and some sideways on these ones would be great. Names you could watch for a pullback to like pivots or whatever. Definitely stuff I just want to continue to keep on watching, keep it on. I think NXT definitely could have been buyable last week. You know, you get your big earnings gap up and then it kind of pulls back into the close before the gap up and undercuts and rallies it there. So that was interesting for sure. And then kind of a continuation higher on Friday, showed some relative strength. You know, this group's super strong, something to keep an eye on. Speaking of like an ETF that's been doing well, IGV, some rotation in this name as well, has been super nice. Right, a lot of people have been talking about this. Bottoming base, this is a name I do own myself. Excuse me. But you know, you got your Oracle finally coming off of its lows. You know, a tight day on Friday, and starting to build some sort of range here on the hourly, or you know, even on the daily. It's finally starting to build some sort of range. So we'll see what it can do. Microsoft as well had a nice day on Friday, showed some sort of relative strength. So you know, nice cup with some sort of handle. We'll see. You know, I'd like to see a stock acting like this if the market was in a correction. This thing's pretty much a laggard, but if it can go sideways while the market breaks down, it can show some relative strength and then pull itself out of this this you know, downtrend and kind of get back above its 200. I'd be super interested in it, but we will have to see. I own the IGV, so I can only pray for good things for names like this. Tesla, another name where it was super strong last week and lots of support below. You got your big gap up. The gap it left, that's definitely a huge area I'm watching, as well as if you flip to a monthly chart, the 2021 highs, we're kind of coming right into that same area. So huge name. I'm keeping on huge spots on this name to really watch. And then your UMAC, this is another speculative name, like your OUST. I know it's in the same group as like a KTOS, but I mean, this drone name is just left for dead. But UMAC actually, you know, gets back above its 200, starts living above it. Had a really nice earnings report, first positive quarter, I think. And some nice sales increases on this name, some nice sales growth. So nice inside day on Friday. The weekly chart doesn't look too bad. Some sort of a little base it's trying to build. It's a little choppy, but I mean, this name's a high flying 9% ATR name. So through the prior day high would be super interesting. VIAV, another name that has been so strong. Not a bad weekly chart. Two super tight weeks, nice 2 inside weeks. And I would love a flush to the bottom of the earnings candle. Would be super interesting. But who knows? This could be like a higher low spot for it to just power through the prior day's high. So you can watch both of these, I think, for sure. But I would love like a gap down in the morning and a washout in this area would be super interesting for me to try a VIAV. Without that, oh yeah, FN is not a bad semiconductor name, inside bar. After some decent sideways. AVGO, another one where it's like the rest of the group's already been going and this name's kind of just like wedging / building some sort of little base, definitely something to keep an eye on. NVTS was a nice high-tech flag. Still doesn't look like a bad chart. Not one of my favorites. I think it's past its buy point. A-Lab, same thing, past its buy point, but definitely not too bad. Marvell, hard to buy this one. If it comes back into the base, I think that'd be nice for it to squat back in and stop anybody out who bought the breakout, because, you know, I'm not buying that. So who knows? Who knows what it'll do, but, you know, come back in the base, continue to digest would be super interesting for me to really pay attention to this name if the market's gapping down. I have BE on here. I talked about the Amazon is another one where it's like makes a massive move up, starting to finally pull back. You get your highs from November. Another one you could watch for a pullback buy. Circle we talked about. InnoData's on the list. PWR, you know, nice high tight flag being built. STRL, nice high tight flag being built, and then Fix is another one, probably one I will not trade, but PWR not bad. Just beautiful structure as far as like a high tight flag, right? You get your massive move up 100%, and then it's just 2 weeks where it's just finally trying to go sideways. So definitely some stuff that I am interested in. Let's see, going back to the oil names, Pump is not a bad one. No real setup on some of these, but they're definitely getting interesting with crude acting better. DK is another one. PBF, some sort of interesting. OVV, nice base above its head. Like, these are all names I'm not going to buy, but some stuff I'll pay attention to. CHRD, nice base. You flip to a weekly, a nice inside week, you know, build a big higher low, and then had a really good day on Friday. PSX is also part of that group. RRC, which is, you know, not bad. SU, you know, at least this one's above its 50 and it broke out on Friday. CVE, another one where it's like nice continuation higher. There's some leaders in this group that are just powering through. So if you were able to get these things on weakness, which for most of these oil names, it's really great to buy these things on weakness. Yeah, but with a CF, sorry, another, this is your chemicals group. I don't think this one looks too bad. Definitely interesting. Don't really see anything too much on it yet. Dow, another one where you're in your chemicals group that doesn't look too bad. Definitely something to keep an eye on. SOLS, another chemicals name, had a nice breakout on Friday, kind of coming back into that, squatting back into the base. So who knows, maybe it can push back out. But yeah, that's going to be everything I'm paying attention to. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. I will see you guys in the next one, and I wish you all best of luck this week. Peace.